Oh,
Hello, we're live.
we are live. Hey, folks,
We are
we
live.
are live. Hello and welcome. We are the Cloudways Mavericks. My name is Lee Matthew Jackson. We have Peacher Neri and we have Jan Koch here as well. And this is that monthly review where we take 3 websites, we take a look at a design, a content, and a speed perspective, and we highlight all the awesome things that are done right. And we also make some recommendations for some improvements. And we dish out this advice, but remember, we are not perfect either, so we're more than happy to own up when we make the very same mistakes. So if you have a website that you would like to submit, then be sure to share it in the comments and we will put that into a spreadsheet ready for next month. Also, if you are watching the replay, please type in replay into wherever you are watching it, and also let us know where you are watching it, which is phenomenal. We are streaming across Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and we're in multiple Facebook groups as well. So it's wonderful to hang out with you. And also be sure to share your feedback on the sites as we review them live, because we might be displaying your comments on the live stream and sharing and discussing those as well. Also, if you have questions for any of us at any time, please let us know. I think before we do dive in, though, it would be great to get a mini intro from each person. So we'll start with Peacher, go to Jan, and then I'll wrap up. So, Peacher, little intro. Are you there, Peacher? Oh, you're on mute.
Oh God.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry. I've been way too discreet. So I am Peacher Neri and I talk and do design things all day long, every day. Yes, and I'm here to have a look at these websites and see what they're doing. That's great. I really like the websites that we have today as well. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. And Jan?
I'm the host of WP Mastery, and I run the WP Agency Summit. That's it in a very nutshell.
A very nutshell. My name is Lee Jackson. Very nutshell. I'm Lee Jackson, and I'm the host of the Agency Trailblazer podcast. So what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to take a look at the first website here, which is Smutty Nose, a great name. And I had a look at their social media. They are rocking social media across Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook with literally thousands of users, thousands of followers, lots of posts, and lots of engagement. So that is super encouraging. And the way we will roll now with this is we're going to take a little look at the homepage. So this is the homepage, and we'll do a few design and content pieces of feedback. We'll then have a look at a call to action page. So for in this instance, it might be the contact page. And then we will do speed and we will do mobile reviews as well. So should I hand over to you, Peacher? I'm going to jump out of the screen for a minute, Peacher, because I need to check what's going on technically with one of our live streams. So
you can also, I've managed to sort out my sharing thing. So if you want to share my screen,
even
I think
better.
That
Let's add yours.
Better.
So yours is there.
Perfect.
Oh, no. There
Great.
there you go. Yours is there.
Go.
Over to you, Peacher. Oh, and you're on the wrong site. Smutty Nose.
Yes, Smutty Nose is here. You see it? Yeah. Yep. It's good now, isn't it? Okay, great. Now, how lovely is this? It's a little seal. It's a puppy seal. It says, I think, are these sea lions? I think they may be. They remind me, I've seen them in a bay in James Joyce Bay near Dublin. They're amazing. They're like Labradors. I love them. So as soon as I saw this, I was immediately engaged by the little. I think it's dangerous to have the illustration as a logo because it goes very small. If you see up here in the tab, you can't even work out what it is. So I wouldn't have it this small because it's got way too much detail for it to be a tiny logo. But I love, and I mean, but apart from what obviously it means, does it have any meaning that I'm unaware of? Smutty Nose, is it particularly referring to seals? Do you know, Jan? I mean, Lee's busy.
I have no idea, to be honest.
No idea. So if we can get it, if anyone, cool. Yeah, it's really cool. If anyone who's watching knows, let us know what. If it has a particular meaning that we should be aware of. So I absolutely love that. I think it's great, and it makes me think of New Hampshire's of the ocean. It's brilliant. I absolutely love it. Now, what I would say here, so I think it's a really good start. But what is then becomes a bit confusing is that here I've got, up here on the top left, I've got Smutty Nose Brewing Company, and it's two different typefaces. And then I look here and I have the illustration, but it's a seal. And then it says New Hampshire's Craft Brewery in it. So I'm a bit confused. So surely it should say Smutty Nose again. There's a bit of a mixed message here. And then another thing that, and then also I've got three things going on here. So I'm a bit confused as to what the call to action is, because what we always say is there should be, every website should be one thing, just one thing that they want you to do. That's the thing that they want you to do immediately, that the company wants you to do. You know, it's something that should be good for you too. It should be something that is good for the user, but it should be very clear. And here I've got three different things. I've got the beer finder, which sounds very intriguing. And then I got the restaurant is Smutty Nose. Oh, it makes me think that Smutty Nose is a place.
So what they said in the
Smart
submission
Labs.
is they want to market their homebrew and they want to serve as a dealer locator on the website.
Right. Okay. So, but they must make their mind up, because a dealer locator. So they, okay.
I think it's just for fans of the brand, and then you can either brew it at home. That's what I understand, or you can buy it at a dealer.
Right. Okay. But it's been way longer than 3 seconds, and we're still not clear to what it does.
True.
So this should be a dead giveaway to Smutty Nose. That they need to work on their one message more clearly, because even if you do have more than one thing that you want to do, you can still get to it, but I am thoroughly confused. I mean, obviously I understand it's a craft brewery, but I am quite confused. I'm not sure what it's called. Is it Smutty Nose? But it says up there, and then it says restaurant at Smutty Nose. I mean, I don't live there, so maybe that's not so much of an issue. In terms of the UI, another thing that I would say is that it's really problematic. Another thing that's confusing me is that there's a very clear image in the background that really fights with the calls to action. They're not really calls to action, but with the elements of the UI that you've put on top. I can't see clearly, and I can't really see. I mean, I can see the brewery, but it's which do you want me to see? Which is more important? Basically, when you have an image with stuff on top, something's gotta give, something's gonna suffer. And I think in this case, it's both things. I don't know whether the brewery is that relevant. Do have it, but have it somewhere else. Don't dilute the message. I don't know what you want me to do. So we usually, what we do is we click on a call to action, but which one do you want me? Shall I look at the beer finder? Because I'm confused.
That
I
will be
don't know
really
which
interesting
one. Yeah, let's look at the beer finder. I actually don't drink beer.
Whilst you're doing that, I mean, when we're planning the content of any website, or when we're planning any website, we need to be outcome driven, and we need to understand who is landing on the website, and it needs to be very clear. I imagine you have people who are aware of the brand and absolutely love to drink it, will purchase it locally, will buy it in a restaurant. You equally will have restaurants that will potentially stock this, or stockists. Equally, it looks like you also have your own brewery, which is famous and people like to go, and you also just have a massive wide audience fan. So I recognize that you have multiple audiences, which makes it super difficult to work out what to do on the homepage. But I totally agree with you, Peter, is it's not really obvious what to do, because they also have events, which I assume is for the fans, because we're not 100% clear who it's for. I mean, we've got a mic night going on here. I'm not sure where that's for, if that's for...
Shall I go back? Because,
sure.
I mean, clearly that's a... Yeah, no, because I mean the beer locator looks great, but also that I'm sure that's a super useful tool. So maybe that's what you want, but because here then is it their restaurant, Lee? Did you work that out?
They've got a restaurant. They've also got a brewery which does events as well. So they've got two locations that are doing events, and Yes, and then they've got the up-and-coming events that are going on here. So they've got the open mic night on the patio, trivia on the patio. So I presume that would be at the restaurant itself. Although they do have a locate event button on some of the things. So again, I think they're trying to do a lot on the homepage to cover everybody, and that's what got confusing. And I spent quite a bit of time looking through the site myself in advance, trying to work that out. So it's not a terrible thing, because it's very likely that the brand is superbly popular out there and everybody is aware of it. But yeah, that was my biggest struggle.
I know, but there's so much that is great. I love this sort of the aesthetics that they've got going on, but I'm not sure about the logo being so different from the typeface that they use. But even the events, why do you have September 27 before? Because I would go, what I thought was like, oh, okay, well, it's ages away. And then I realized that there's events coming up, there's something going on tomorrow. So why at the bottom? Definitely put it at the top. In fact, if that's what you want, if you want people to go to the events, maybe it should be up here. There should be a button here saying event on the 15th, on Wednesday 15th. Do you know what I mean?
Correctly on the events page, just as a side note.
Okay, so if we go on the events page. So I think that make clearer, because I want to move. You guys need to talk about it as well. This is lovely. I love this aesthetic. The skeuomorphic, that using a real life object is nice. It's always it makes you feel it's the handmade feel, because there's a craft beer, so it works. The aesthetics really work. But I think that you just need to clarify what it is. The main thing that needs to happen when someone visits you, and what do they come for? Do you know the one thing that they come for? Do they come to find the beers? Do they come to find the events? And where do you want them? Do you want them to find the beer, or do you want them to come to your event? So make that kind of decision and make it really easy for your user to get there, and that involves making the interface clear as well. I suppose that people maybe know, but I don't know. Anyway.
Can we also jump on the contact page as well? Because I assume that's their core call to action. There are a few call to actions like, find beer or find a supplier, etc. But I think the main call to actions are, the main call to action could be established as the contact page itself. And I think it's a little bit clearer if you scroll down the contact page what's going on, because you've got the brew lab where you can get directions, you've got an area to go for careers. So it's just starts to get a little clearer as to what's going on the contact page. Still not 100% clear, but at least it's a bit clearer because they've got it sectioned out. And perhaps that's something, I don't know if you agree, that they could look to focus on the homepage by making it more sectional, so you understand if I am I want to stock the brews that they do, I know where I'm going on the page, and then that takes me off to that section.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because also,
I think they could use more sections on the homepage with all the different topics that they try to cover.
Yeah.
I think is it Saji says that the zebra effect, where you've got like lots and lots of different sections, but at least it helps you navigate through and understand where the user should be going and looking.
And it's rare that we recommend having. It's rare that we recommend having more content rather than less.
Yeah, but because usually you wouldn't go to the contact page to find out and understand what is going on. Maybe the about page would do that. So it's fine. You can call this is basically an about page, maybe. So yeah, I would say great thing. It makes me want to go there, definitely. It makes me want to be there, without a doubt. But just I would say clarify the message, because I would have a bit of difficulty finding out what I'm there for.
No worries.
But other than that.
Jan, would you be up for doing a few bits of speed as well on this? Because I can see some issues that I'm sure you'll be able to highlight for us. Did you want to share your screen? I think your screen's up next. You've already done it? Oh, dear. I'll let you speak.
Perfect. Yeah, so can you guys see it?
Yep.
Is it big enough? Okay, great.
Beautiful.
So we do have 9.8 seconds fully loaded time, but that, as we said on regular webinars, doesn't tell us a whole lot. So when we go into the timing, we can see that the first contentful paint is 3 seconds. So that is quite a long time. and the onload, so where the page occurs to be complete and there's still stuff being processed in the background, is 9.3 seconds. So that is definitely something worth improving. The biggest things that I would focus on is serving scaled images is a given. So there are background patterns and a wholesale image that are resized, but they just save 300 kilobytes, which is like 10% of the total page size. What you want to do is you want to load your JavaScripts asynchronously or exclude JavaScripts on pages where you don't need them. So for example, on the home page, there are 1, 2 requests loading reCAPTCHA from Google. So that's this visitor validation tool, if you will, to fight spam. And I'm not sure if that needs to be on the homepage. I don't remember if there is a contact form on the homepage directly where it would be embedded.
There wasn't that when I looked.
Yeah.
I couldn't see any
Yeah,
pop-ups
so
for it.
there's just the sign up here. But there is the reCAPTCHA. You can see it here on in the bottom of the page. But you don't need that on the homepage when there's nothing to receive spam on. Why would you do that? And I doubt that it is connected to the newsletter sign up, to be honest. Then that's one thing. Basically, figure out which scripts need to load on which page. And then the other red flag I saw is Square Up. So that's the payment form. Again, doesn't need to load on the home page because there's no payment option on the home page. And there is a layer slider running on the home page, which is the main hero section. And you can make layer slider load pretty fast. I try to avoid it when I can, but if you are stuck with it because it's deeply integrated in your theme, go with it. But there are options in layer slider to make it load asynchronously. So I would heavily look into this, and that should probably already shave off 3 seconds of the loading time, just these 2 things. And then there's a lot more to dive into, but yeah, you can reach out in the comments if you want to have more suggestions. But for now, I would leave it as it is and hand over back to you, Lee.
Thanks, guys. Right, let's just have a little wrap up on mobile as well. So they're doing a great job on mobile, which is phenomenal. So like we said, we definitely feel like there needs to be some sort of coherency with regards to where we go, depending on who we are. So that would need a rethink. But on mobile, this is pretty nice. It stacks. It's nice and easy. You've not got any irrelevant information. There's a few things you could do to improve that, like moving the date across here and making this section a little narrower, so you're reducing the amount of time that you need to scroll, and also things like the actual font sizes as well are a little bit small for me, including that featured product element here, which is quite hard to read and hard to click on. But at least the good thing is here we've got that the menu itself is pretty clear as well. It's obvious what happens, and I can go into the relevant sections, or I can also expand and see what else is going on. So good treatment of that. We didn't really get time to talk about all the design stuff because, unfortunately for us, it was actually trying to work out both prior to this and during kind of where we were meant to go. But there's a load of things. If you do watch past episodes where Peacher shares her feedback on design, there's a few things in here that she would definitely recommend. For example, left aligning of content, so it's easier to read, and also the ability to actually read that is very difficult because of the background image, as you can see.
Yeah. So one thing that I would say, sorry, Lee, to interrupt, but I am still, I'm not sure the difference between Smart Labs and Smutty Nose. I don't know if it matters. I maybe it does matter. Would your fans, would the people, because obviously you're a very local business, so maybe I don't matter in terms of audience, obviously, but would the people who visit your page be confused, or is it just me between Smart Labs and Smutty Nose? Because I am confused. What's the brand? Is it Smutty Nose or is Smart Labs? I'm not sure anymore.
No worries. Right, well, let's move on to our next site. Thank you very much. The next site is, I can't say that. Is that Nature W?
Nature Raw, I would say. Nature
Raw. Oh, yeah. Nature Raw. Oh, I see. It's a play on words.
It's raw.
So I like this site, by the way. So do you mind if I kick off, guys? So I really love this site. We have a family dog, not ours, but we've got a family dog who has been brought up on raw meat as their core food, and his coat is absolutely gorgeous. He is muscular, he's well defined, he is absolutely gorgeous. So I'm a massive fan of this, and it's this I like as a website. Both the colors with regards to how pleasing it is. I love the imagery that's being used. I know there's design issues that Peacher will highlight. As on a usability kind of prospect, I can go straight to what I want to order, a bit like the one that me and you looked at last time, Peacher, for the takeaway, which I thought was really cool. So I can water buffalo. Clearly, this is American because we can't get that out here. So I can just go straight into water buffalo and take a look, and then I can get access to all of the different elements. This is proudly made in Canada, so you've got a few of the brands here, and this is kind of your, not your social proof, but this is your credibility. You know, this is human grade, this is made in Canada, there's no preservative or additives, so this is great, and I can instantly see a special offer that's going to entice me to want to go and visit the shop, because for my first order I'm going to get 10% off. If I have any questions down here on the left, I can chat. I really liked that as well. And equally, I could see where this was based. So I can see, if I'm local to the Toronto area, I can see where you are. So overall, I was really impressed with this landing page. And I was also really impressed as well just with the shop in general, because I could instantly go, I mean, I know how my in-laws purchase. They purchase on weight and type of animal. It's as simple as that. So instantly I could see what was going on, and I could just go ahead. I could get my different grounds, my different types of beef, etc. So I believe for those guys, it would be fairly easy for them to use. And I could also use these filters up here on the right-hand side, which was pretty darn cool. So I was impressed overall. But did you want to share your homepage, Peach? I've just popped you on screen. If you could give us a little bit on the design, and don't be too mean, because I think it's gorgeous.
No, it's great. No, I think it's just such a great site. Yeah, I completely agree with everything you've said. And in terms of information architecture and finding out what it is about, it's just really, really great. But you know already what I'm going to say, don't you? Or you two, you know already.
The alignment, center alignment.
Well,
and the background
not so
image.
much. No, you would be surprised. I think actually this is fine here. It works because it's really lovely design, very nicely designed. But it's driving me bonkers, the slider, and I can't stop it. You know what? I can't. Let me see. Is there a way I can stop it? I literally need to stop it. I can't stop it. You're not doing so. These images are gorgeous, really gorgeous. I love the branding. I love, in a case like this, the centered alignment is absolutely fine because it's designed. This is designed. It's not, I don't like centered for a number of reasons, but also because normally it's just plonked on the page and that's it. Here it's designed. It's got the lovely banner at the top. It's got the beautiful sort of vintagey looking typeface. So that really works. But I can't even read it. Why would you have something that I can't read? Usually I say that it's an accessibility issue because web readers can't read sliders. They don't have the time to read the slider. But here, humans can't read the slider. So why would you do this? You're not doing yourself a favor. So you can have a slider if you have to, actually with sort of
Are you clicking through that, or is that going that
No,
fast
I'm not. I just
I know you're right. It's doing it for me as well. I've just noticed.
Do you think I would be clicking if I could stop it? There's no way I could.
Yeah.
So
No worries.
do yourselves first a favor and choose an image and make this stop, because I'm going to have to go down now because it literally is making me a little bit sick. But what's the point? I can't even read what it says. I don't have the time. So change this, and also because I want to dwell on it. It's so lovely that I want to see the image, and it creates the atmosphere. It's just perfect. It's really great. So I have to say that apart from the slider, it's brilliant. I mean, it's really well organized. Although it's got the frequently asked questions. So if I were a dog owner and didn't know what it was, then I would just go to the frequently asked questions. There's reviews here. Here it tells me, I mean, it makes one thing, oh God, that looks good enough, literally good enough to eat, definitely good enough for humans. So, human grade, made in Canada. I mean, it just free of hormones and antibiotics. As you were saying, Lee, as a pet owner, you that's what you want. There's no call to action as such. I mean, there's a let's chat thing here, which is really nice, and it doesn't pop up, which is great. Keep it like that. maybe you would want a call to action, because it could be visit our shop. Maybe why not have it there? Maybe you're missing out on an opportunity, because obviously I think that's the visit our shop. Or maybe you could say 10% off. That could be your call to action. There were no pop-ups on this website, so well done, because pop-ups are dead. Please don't attack me with all your pop-ups when I visit your site. I'm just going to go into the shop. But
on a side note, Peter, sorry to interrupt. What do you think about the menu structure with the logo in the center?
Well, the thing is that it's not that it can work. It's fine. I like it. I don't mind it. I'm not all gang ho about centered all the time. It's not. It doesn't upset me. It's fine. I think that sometimes the logo in the center works, because it's kind of, I want you to look at that. That's who we are, and I want it in the center. So I'm fine with it. It's not ragged lines that drive me mad to read them. It's just a logo in the center, and therefore it's a centered menu. I don't mind that at all. So, okay, £50. So categories, top selling products, maybe the filtering. I mean, I am not a dog owner, but we've had dogs it's got filters. It's got filters. It's really important. So popularity, average rating. What would you look for? I wouldn't.
I think the filtering is great, because you have in the brown line below the green menu, you have the categories and the types of meats, and that's also in the categories.
Oh, look,
in the
it's here. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay, great.
So I think that is what you would want as a dog owner, and then probably what would be helpful, but that's really stretching, is having the sizing of the products meet the weight of your dog. But that's like a really far-fetched. That's something that is not, I wouldn't consider an essential at all.
I'm just gonna go into the product itself. The copy, text. I would definitely make the copy much bigger. This is very, very small. It's borderline unreadable for me, and I'm wearing glasses. So I would make it bigger. And of course, why would you center this? Because in order to see the information, you're making my eye go all like this. So I think you should direct to the add to cart button much better with an aligned, anchored alignment. I think that would really help. But in general, I mean, the branding is great, and they're being very consistent with it. They're using the brand colors. They're using them very well. This is a bit low contrast, this green against the background, but it's fine because it's big. It's big enough, the heading, so you can see it. I mean, if we did a contrast checker, it would probably come out.
Can you scroll down
right?
a little bit, please?
Yeah, I sure can.
There is a.
Please! I don't really want to see the heads.
There is the feeding calculator. That is something that I found really interesting, because it helps to decide.
Okay, okay. Are you just US based? Because if you were also Euro-based, then we Canada. Oh yeah, CA. Sorry, we'd want kilos as well. Oh, that's great. But I don't want to take up more time, so
I think you would get into shipping issues if you send out to the US or Europe, because
probably
you have to keep it fresh. Yeah,
raw meat. Yeah, I think that would be an issue. So a lot that's great. I would just get rid of the slider, put a direct call to action there. But all in all, there is so much that is just great about this site.
So, Jan, shall we move on to a little bit of speed with you? And I see we've already got this ready to rock and roll.
And we have plenty to talk about this time. So, again, let's first look at the timings. And you'll see in a minute that they use a CDN. And I think a CDN, in this case, assuming you only ship to Canada, I didn't actually check that, so that's on me. But assuming you just have Canadian customers, I would probably not use a CDN, and we'll see why in a minute. First of all, it takes half a second to establish the connection to your server. So that is the browser of your visitor asking their internet service provider who owns your IP, your domain, recognizing the IP address of your server, and then connecting to that server. There isn't any data sent in the first half a second, and then they have another 0.6 seconds before the site starts to send the data. So assuming that you're using WooCommerce, your database needs an optimization. That is something that WP Optimize, for example, can do as a plugin. And then you have 7.4 seconds for the first paint. That is when the visitor sees the first things appear on the website, which is obviously something you want to work on. And you can do that. Again, ignore the scaled images for now. You have more important things to work on, because that is 300 kilobytes in the scope of 4.5 megabytes. That is not even 10% reduction. You have more important things than scaled images. Again, also optimize images. Don't work on that for now, but look at that. That's 1.4 megabyte of JavaScript is passed and blocking the site rendering. So that is an essential to work on. And here you can see the stack path DNS. So that is probably the Cloudways CDN. They collaborate with StackPath, if I'm not mistaken. And you want to check your configuration with StackPath, and maybe even disable it if you just have Canadian visitors. You won't need that. And the plugin used that is built with, or that builds the slideshow that Peter loves so much, is the Revolution slider. And Revolution slider also has a setting to lazy load the resources, and also to only load the scripts on pages where you have Revolution slider enabled. So that's a similar approach to what I said about the previous website, is only load resources when you need them. And Revolution slider definitely is a heavy weight. It's 300 kilobytes, just that script. So you would want to lazy load that so that the DOM, the website, can already build while Revolution slider is being loaded in the background.
We do have a question on this as well, which feels very apt from Terry, which is, what's your favorite tool for controlling the JS loads on specific pages, especially if this was a WordPress site? I'm not sure if it is, but if you had any thoughts on that.
It is a WordPress site, and there is a plugin. I think it's called Asset Control.
Asset Control.
Asset Management or something. WordPress Assets Manager. I think that's the name. And that lets you... I'll shoot you the link, Lee, so you can put it up.
Yeah, awesome.
And that is a plugin that lets you decide on either page by page or post by post or product by product, in this case, basis, to which scripts and which style sheets should be loaded. So that's a really good thing. And probably also you would want to get rid of the Modern Events Calendar Lite assets, because there is no calendar functionality on the homepage.
There's no calendar. Well, can I say something about slider rev?
Yeah,
just quickly.
Of course.
So because you don't really, I mean, there's the only place where sliders actually work and help is for e-commerce. So imagine that you have, you're buying clothes. It's actually the only situation where actually a slider may help. But here, you're not using it to promote your products. You're not using it for your products. So if I were you, I would consider just not having a Revolution slider, because it's such a... I used it when I didn't know much better. I have to confess, I used it because I did when I used to do also photography. And if I was doing also the photography for a client, I wanted to show it off. I believe there's still a site that I built that has a slider on the homepage, because it's a shop and it has all my beautiful photos. So, but if you, otherwise, it's such a huge, a huge energy sucker, a resources sucker, that I don't. Yep. I think you should consider not having it. And I think that you should have your beautiful photos, have them, but dot them in other places. So you've got lots of different pages. Have each of those. I think there were 3. Choose one for the home page, put a call to action on it, and then put them in your other, your other pages, maybe frequently asked questions,
Or
and so on.
maybe have just 3 sections, each for one for each image. And also, I would sprinkle the best-selling products onto that homepage. I wouldn't just have the featured product, but WooCommerce lets you show the best-selling products automatically. So why not take advantage of that?
Absolutely.
And on a side note, keep the image sizes consistent. I'm just realizing that the sardines are bigger than the meat.
So it's not. There's no need to. And Slider Revolution is a problematic plugin, and I mean, I'm not technical at all, but unless you have a very, 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 very good reason to have Slider Rev, just don't have it. It's so complicated. It does so many things. You could use a page build if you really want a slider. Then use.
It's Visual Composer. They have page builders installed too.
Oh God, they have Visual Composer. I see.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's one last thing that I would like to talk about in terms of speed optimization, and that's the number of requests. There's this tiny little but amazing plugin called Breeze by Cloudways that lets you combine the requests. So that is, it merges your JavaScript files and it merges your CSS files. And I would highly recommend enabling that. And essentially, what you want to do, CSS scripts usually are pretty safe to combine and to minify. That is usually not going to break. Thanks, Lee. Thanks for putting that on. CSS merging and combination is usually not breaking your website. JavaScript files can break your website. So be very careful, especially with the shop functionality. Do thorough testing and maybe use the staging feature of Cloudways to just clone the page and test it there, and then merge it into live when you see the staging is working.
That's awesome. Let's wrap up as well, folks, with just a very quick look at the mobile environment. And this, as beautiful as the site is, unfortunately, it's not optimized for mobile. I can't actually read that on my phone. I did test, so I can't read the text on here at all, unfortunately. Also, then we have this kind of slider going on. This is at least better because I used my fingers and I could swipe my fingers, which was great to have a look through all the different types. But we then have the featured products again with these. I found. Sorry, let me do that again. I found that the featured products were great with the images. Like Jan was saying, keep them consistent so that it's a nice grid format. And when I clicked on this, I actually found that quite hard to click on with my finger. If I clicked on the image, it took me through to the product. I then had to go back if I wanted to just quick view. So my fat fingers could not get that little quick view button going on there. It's quite so well. Again, these are fairly unreadable, so these probably need to be stacked into 2 columns, if at all. And this is actually quite important, which is hidden away all the way down at the bottom, which is the free shipping. That's one of those things that entices people. So I do think perhaps reordering some of these elements, like bringing the free shipping further up here so that it's actually in view, so you're not forcing people to scroll down less, etc. So I would definitely say probably lose the slider altogether. I think this is fairly good with regards to being able to scroll through. Shame you can't fit 3 in. And again, this quick view was really difficult for me to view, etc. And this image, this section up near the top. Now we do have one more site. I realize we're coming into land, so we have about 20 minutes left of this. This is live and unedited. We did see in the comments that somebody wanted to know how to submit their site for our call next week. Jan has put a link, not next week, next month. Jan has put a link in there, so be sure to check out the comments and you can submit your site. But we do have one last site, which is Bayou City Water Keeper. And I might as well start us off with this site and then we can go over to you, Peacher. But I love the content here. I scrolled down, and for me, it's clearly this is a local website. I can access all of the content and I can find out what's going on. I mean, yes, I know there's a lot of text, so it's a bit of a read. It would have been great to see some of these pictures up near the top, but I found this really fascinating. These are guest posts by people who have had good experiences. They've shared their images. This is an interesting website. For me, I instantly knew where to go. I could go to the About Us. I could find out some information. Unfortunately, here it was kind of kind of image heavy first before I could actually get to the text. So there's probably a few layout issues that Peacher can speak into. But overall, I got a real good taste for what the mission was. I could get behind the mission really quickly. We've got the vision. So the mission is to protect. The vision is what you want to create. I could get behind this. We had the history, and I kind of want to live there now. I want to be by the bayou, or however you say it. What we do, again, was really obvious. I liked the navigation because this works to my logical brain, which is, who are we? What do we do? What can I learn? Where are things, etc. And also the take action, which was to essentially donate or join one of the events, join the list, or have a look at the action center. So I think overall this was a nice content-led site, very image-heavy, which can be a negative. I'm sure Jan will go into that for speed and for design. But for me, it gave me, on a content level, a real feel for this area and kind of a desire to want to live there, but also to want to go there and check it out and to be a part of that mission of creating a beautiful space, a sustainable space. So I was overall impressed with that. Peacher, would you, if I switch to your screen, do you want to kind of speak into some of the design elements as well?
Sure. So one thing though, I mean, I agree. I love this image here, and obviously it's a totally local site, but at the same time, where do I go to find out where this is? So at the bottom, Bayou City, I find out that it's in Texas. So even though it's local, why don't we make it clearer where we're located? Because I find even, sites that are local to me, but I don't know exactly where they are, and where geography is actually really important, I often find that it's very hard to find out what something is. So I don't know, but this may be just me because I'm obviously
I had to Google
Texas,
it.
but...
Yeah, I had to Google it, and I found out that Bayou City is a nickname for Houston. That makes it much more obvious. Right.
Okay. So maybe their target audience knows already, but why would you make life difficult for anyone? Just I don't know. I might be wrong on this one. Anyway, love the photo. Actually, in this case, the image, the text on the image is readable because they've used the sky, so it's fine. Again, never will be a fan of centered because this is way, I think, too many things. Swimmable, drinkable, fishable, water for all. It's a bit of a long line. What I would say is that what's visually confusing is that you've got 1, 2, 3 different typefaces in three lines, 3 typefaces. That's way too much because my brain has to shift from the shapes of Bayou City, and then I have to adapt to Waterkeeper, which is a slab serif, and then I go to yet a different typeface, which is also slanted. So it's a bit too much.
Did you say a slab serif or a sans serif?
I said a slab serif.
That's a new word on me.
I'm not sure if it's a slab serif just from the from the caps. Slab serifs are, you know what a serif typeface is? It's the one that has little feet. And when they're slab, they're like blocks.
I didn't know that. I've learned a new thing.
Straight blocks, and they're usually the same thickness as the letter, as the lines of the letter. Yeah.
I am going to try and find ways of saying that all the time so that I sound clever now. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely you will. So I would say, so yes, it looks like the blog, the news is quite. So again, here, if you want me to donate, make this way bigger. Why keep it small? Make it bigger. Is that the action you want me to take? Because if that's the action, it's here, so it is a call to action. Make it way bigger, and also the donate. I like the that it goes interactive. It clearly is interactive as I hover over it, but the donate in so small in white against the orange is not enough contrast, so it's borderline unreadable. You need to make the orange darker or make it way bigger, and it would work. Also, if these 2 buttons do the same thing, make them look the same. Why have this one square and this one like a pill button? So I'm going to click on it because that's what we always do. Yeah, uniformity. Just keep it uniform so people don't get confused and just donate. So what happens if I click on donate? Great, this is easy. I mean, I'm bored of myself listening to myself talking about centered layout, so I won't mention it.
I think that kind of works, though, in all fairness, because it looks like a piece of paper on a background. It kind of works for me. It's not making me work too much, and where my eye is drawn to is the select my amount. I already know what I'm doing on this page. It's the donate page, and I'm drawn to select the amount.
That's what matters, and that's made super easy. Super easy. You just can click and select your amount. It's clearly selected. I wouldn't make it gray. I mean, the fact that it looks like a pressed button, hats off to that. It's called neomorphism. But don't make it gray, because grayed out usually is connected with something that doesn't work. So I would not make it gray, but that's super easy. You're making it so easy for me. I don't know what e-check is, but you can use credit card. I mean, this is great. As
it's
regards
an embedded form, by the way, so I'm not sure how much control over the styling they really have. It's from salsalabs.com for anybody who's interested.
Possible. So it's not, the thing to say is that it's not really designed, this website. My guess is that you got a theme and you used that and you did a really good job of it, but it's not designed. There isn't a layout at work. So this is great. Our story, working to make our waterways fishable, swimmable and drinkable for our communities. Super clear. Great.
I love it.
Yeah, me too. So here, this is nothing, none of this is clickable. Our mission is to restore. So it's not designed. And here, if you want, I would make it a little bit, I mean, I would lay it out. Like, for instance, remember what we saw. Actually, I'm going to go there. You're going to see it, aren't you? So if I go, it was in contact. Without doing too much about it, but if you had like a checkerboard layout like this, which is also called Z, because my eye does like this, because I've got like a checkerboard layout. So you could do something like this with your copy and with your photos, and already would be much more readable. Do you know what I mean? You just, because if you want me to read this, then it's a very simple layout to recreate. And the same thing, was it the blog that you were in? Was it a Bayou City blog? Maybe.
Yes, I was in this
it
blog.
looks
I was actually
like
on a blog post itself rather than the list. That was fairly obvious to go through that, other than how to get into it if you didn't assume that there was a link on the title.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. That's not, but looking at this, again, it's not, as you were saying, that the photos are at the bottom. So this is not designed. This is like just an image gallery that it's at the bottom, because this is just simply text put on the page. Now, what I would, degradation color, gradient, I suppose that's a gradient. The donate button in the middle should be filled with a gradient. Yeah, gradients help to make things look interactive, but above all, it should be way bigger. So here, the issue here with the blog is that the line is way too long. You've lost me at a run. Up to here, up to I decided to run, is because really ideal line length is between 45 and 70 characters. And that's where typography really matters, because this is way too long. I mean, it'd be interesting to see stats of who actually reads this, but this is presumably really interesting information that you're not making easy for me to look at. Also, another issue that you've got here is that just make your links underlined, because if they're not underlined, then they're not accessible, basically. And I don't know, also this red is very, very bright, and so it really sort of vibrates against the background, while everything is very readable. I mean, I would make it even bigger, but that's me. But it's really readable. It's a really nice typeface. So make the text box like half, and underline the links. Guys, you need to underline links. There are now CSS ways of underlining links in really, really cool way. There are many, many ways that you can do it. But otherwise it's not accessible, because a web reader or someone who has issues will not know. If someone who's got color blindness issues may not even see that there's a link here. So this would be, I don't know what theme you're using, how easy or how difficult it is to put images inside your post. It should be easy, but if you can break it up with images, do it. But more than that, you need to have a like 960 pixels width for your text. I mean, it really depends on the typeface. It depends on a lot of things, but this is way too wide. You're making it difficult for people to read it. And it looks like really interesting content. I mean, I love to go hiking in my area. I go hiking all the time. I'm sure I would be on this site going, I want to, how do I go here? Or let me see the photos. I want to do this trail next weekend, you know? So make it easier for people to, because also we scan on the web, we scan content, which is why I also suggested a checkerboard layout, because we're used to scanning content and trying to find the relevant information as quickly as possible. And with a layout, or actually a lack of layout like this, the paragraphs are good. You split into paragraphs, so that's really good, but make them much smaller so it's easier to hide for my eyes to identify the relevant information.
Quick question, Picha. What do you think about using a sidebar? If we make the content more narrow, there's space that could be used for a sidebar to keep people more engaged on the page, and maybe put the donate button in there too. What do you think about those?
Yeah, absolutely. Put your donate button wherever you can and have a sidebar. Definitely. Yeah.
So all of this advice, folks, as well, is to encourage you to just make some evolutions to this site that will hopefully increase your donations and people who are interested in having a look and visiting, because that's what I assume you want to do. So all of this is awesome advice, including looking at speed, which looks pretty darn good from this view.
Yep. You've done a great job with.
Tell us what they're doing right, mate.
So there's immediately what you see compared to the previous website, the Nature Raw website, is that they've combined the assets. So they are merging JavaScript and CSS files into single requests, which brings down the number of overall requests. That's great. And also don't be fooled by the almost 6 seconds fully loaded time, because the DOM is loaded. So essentially the content is there and JavaScript starts executing on sliders and other stuff. That's 2.5 seconds. So that's not too bad. There's still room for improvement, but it's not bad. And it's a similar situation as we had with the dog food shop, where there's plenty of time in here. That's almost like 0.8 of a second before the server starts sending data. So I would look into your domain configuration. I would look into the database, optimize the database using WP Optimize. That's my go-to tool for this. And it cleans up just the mess that WordPress naturally assembles if you use it for a couple of months or years, even when you deactivate and activate plugins and you use the draft feature and auto-saving revisions for your posts and stuff like that. And it can easily clutter up the database. So take a look at that. And I would assume that just by running the automated database cleaning process, you would immediately shave off 1.5 seconds from the loading time. Going into the Pagespeed recommendations, this is actually a website where I would look into the scaled images and seeing if you can reduce the ones that GTmetrix suggests you should reduce. Feels like I'm repeating myself, but again, you want to selectively load your JavaScript files. Again, it's reCAPTCHA on the homepage where it's not needed. And there is also a comments reply script that's included in WordPress by default, which is not needed on the homepage because there are no comments to moderate. And I would just selectively go through each of the scripts that load and try to either load them asynchronously, so that's deferred loading, or async loading, and see which files you can get rid of, like the contact form 7, for example. I would probably switch that contact form, to be honest, because contact form 7 is enqueuing their scripts and resources on every page, no matter whether there's a contact form on it. So you will be optimizing yourself to death with this plugin, depending on how many posts you have. And yeah, that's really it. I mean, you've done a good job on all the other aspects here. When we go,
I just popped a link there for the selective JS again as a reminder if you want to be able to disable things. Asynchronously, I believe, is done in Breeze. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so asynchronous loading is Breeze, or if you want to do what Jan was suggesting, this is Gonzalez, the plugin I use, which allows you to specifically disable JavaScript based on rules, which could be just this page or pages of this type, etc. So it's very clever way of doing things.
Yeah. And thank you to Michael for jumping into the comments and sharing that it's GTmetrix, what I use to analyze these sites. So that's gtmetrix.com. What we can do for fun, if we do have like another minute or two for this before we can wrap up, let's go to Pingdom Site Speed. That's another tool that you can use for page speed analysis, and let's use the same website, of course. So they have various methods to analyze the pages, and I hope we can make it in time. Let's see. So there we go. The analysis is coming, and you can already see that the page size is vastly different. Let's put them side by side, actually.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Hope that works. So there we go. Let me zoom into Pingdom a little bit. So GTmetrix says it's 5.9 seconds fully loaded time. Pingdom says 1.89 seconds. And that is because GTmetrix says fully loaded, and Pingdom has the contentful paint, if I'm not mistaken, as the load time. So Pingdom recognizes when the page appears to be loaded and takes that as the load time, and not when the page technically is finished loading. But it has similar recommendation.
What matters though? Does it matter if what's matter is perception on the part of the visitor.
Yeah, the DOM loaded, or maybe if at most the onload page time is what I would look into. I wouldn't recognize the fully loaded time as being the mandatory metric here. But that's usually what I do when I optimize websites. Is I run the website against these two pages, these two analysis tools. But you can already see that GTmetrix gives you a bit more detail and more granular feedback. So that's why I usually just show GTmetrix in these webinars.
I have a question as well. If I share my screen just quickly, what I've always fascinated by is how significantly different Google Page Insights is. So I can score really, really well on GTmetrix, which is what we use internally, and then a client who is using their Google tools it's suggested to run through that, and they just get horrific results. I mean, thankfully, they're scoring fairly well here on desktop. For mobile is terrible, meaningful paint of 3.7 seconds, etc. But I've never quite understood why it's so different.
But do you know which website scores there are a few websites that score terribly on page speed insights, and one of them is YouTube.
Oh, I didn't
know
Google,
that. Google.com too, I think.
Fastest website, fastest, most optimized website. And also Guardian, like for instance, the Guardian newspaper, which is instant. I mean, it's like zero load, and it scores terrible. So page speed insights really is just a nightmare.
The metrics applied by Google. So they have the set of best practices that they consider to be important, and those best practices don't apply to all websites. And if you look at these numbers,
I didn't know that. Sorry, Karen.
Yeah. So if you look at this analysis, I wouldn't focus at the 72. What I would focus on is the time to interactive. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is the time it takes the website to be used by the visitor. So coming back to the UX, you want, for a good UX, you want this number to be as low as possible. And that's really the only thing I would focus on. And it's helpful to have that differentiation between desktop and mobile for that number, because it shows you how you have to rearrange your mobile layout in terms to get that number down too.
Well, that's good. Let's just wrap up then as well with the mobile. And as we can see here, we've got something that looks a little bit off-center. So we've got the text that's hanging over there.
That's the issue with center text. So,
yeah, exactly. And italics as well, because it creates that kind of a false feeling of not being not being quite so centered. When I tried to use this on the mobile physically on my hands, again, I found my fat fingers were kind of clicking between the two, so I didn't know whether perhaps these could be a little larger, a little bit more space for my big fat fingers to be able to click on these and then to be able to click on the relevant menu items. When I scrolled down, I was also noticing this here, so there's an issue where the read more buttons are touching, and again, I think this is very much using a theme, like you've said, Peacher, so it's just also using the default output here.
Also, if don't have read more that looks the same as donate, whatever you use color and style that you use for donate, don't have it for any other button. So, if it's orange, say orange gradient, donate. Read also, more or become a supporter, something different.
Well, this also, to me, I highlighted in my notes was that I thought this was the same thing. I presume a supporter is somebody who actually maybe volunteers or does something else. But just on first glance, it kind of looked like the same button had wrapped. And I thought it was donate, become a supporter, as in it was all one button and it is wrapped. And then I realized it's actually two buttons as well. So and
also see the dangers of having an image in the background and text on top. So if you go, join us, you can't really read it. Yeah.
No, exactly. So I would say that overall, I mean, we're picking at the UX and things that aren't right. My personal opinion is this is one of my favorite sites because I absolutely love what it's about and creating a beautiful, fishable, visitable spaces. I think this is wonderful. So I think people will be really forgiving of this website because of your mission. But if you want to improve your chances of more donations, more support, more people visiting, I would highly recommend you take the advice of Peacher with regards to layout, have a look at those speed things as well, and really maximize on the fantastic content that you really do have. So this is a great
Waterways,
site, to be able to
Waterways are life. Waterways are life. They're amazing. I love Waterways.
Absolutely. So, which was your favorite site, Jan?
The dog one, to be honest, the dog food one, but just because we have two dogs.
Oh, fair enough. It's a good job they didn't see your screen. They may have gotten a little bit excited.
Maybe that's why they were barking in the background. But I'm glad the microphone filtered that out.
That's good, isn't it? For me, it was definitely the water the water city. I mean, I loved the dog food design. It was gorgeous, but I absolutely love the Bayou City Waterkeeper site just for its content and kind of that feeling of. I guess I feel it more because we're kind of all trapped, aren't we? Still at home. I know lockdown is slowly being lifted in places, but we're not really going out much, and seeing that just makes me yearn for community and yearn to be out in the outdoors.
That's true.
How about you, Peacher? Which site kind of hit you the most?
Same. I don't have a dog right now. I don't drink beer, and I absolutely love. I'm out on water. We're lucky. I'm in Spain, and fingers crossed we can go on hikes and things like that. And I love water, and I used to live near marshes in London, and I just love it. So it's like you, Lee.
Phenomenal. Now then, Jan,
before we wrap up, I do have one more thing that I wanted to touch upon, and. Peacher, you shared a little bit about that during the webinar already, which is your knowledge about typography. So you've got this thing going on these days, the typography masterclass. Yeah, tell us about it.
So it's because doing all these reviews, typography is always the thing that kind of number one thing that comes up. So I'm doing this typography masterclass, which the first session was last week, but it's recorded and up to be watched already, and you can still join. The second session is this Thursday, day after tomorrow. Thank you, Jan. So I honestly think it's hands-on. So on Thursday I will be working on a live website of mine, a live project. Will be choosing typefaces, looking what works, what doesn't work, and typesetting and so on. So if you want, you can still join. But if you don't want to do it, this is a live class. If you prefer non-live classes, don't worry, it's coming up as well. So stay tuned with Design for Geeks and find me in the group. You can find me in the Design for Geeks group.
So
I
remember,
anticipated you.
if you want to know what Slab Serif is.
Yes, you would learn it. You would definitely learn it in the masterclass. Yeah.
Jan, how can people
Thank
connect with
you.
you? And have you got any projects coming up that people would be interested in?
Nothing that I can talk about publicly yet, but there will be more summits in the future, to say it that
Excellent.
way. And you can connect with me in the WP Mastery Facebook group.
Great. So if you want to know what Jan has got planned, and I know he's always got exciting plans, yeah, go ahead and join the WP Mastery Facebook group. You can join me over at agencytrailblazer.com/group as well. We've got a podcast coming out tomorrow where I share how I generated my first customer, how I actually landed my first client back when I was a teenager. And you can learn a lot of lessons from an idiot teenager that I was, because there is a lot of mistakes I made. But that's also a fun episode. Also, be sure to join the Cloudways Facebook users group. Just type in Cloudways users into Facebook. Go hang out in there. We're actually streaming in there today as well, which is awesome. And you can find out what's going on with anything that we're doing, because we'll always advertise it in there. We're also in the Cloudways Facebook group. If you want to tag us into questions, we'd love to get involved in more conversations with you. So I think that's pretty much a wrap, isn't it, for today? We've covered everything, I believe. So shall we now sing the new song that we wrote?
Yeah, right.
No, we've not. I think with that we should wrap up and do our little cheesy wave. Take care, folks. We will see you again on the second Tuesday
Bye,
of next
everyone.
month, as well as many up-and-coming webinars that we're doing over the next few weeks. Keep your eye on the Cloudways Facebook group. No, on the Facebook page. Take care. Cheerio. Cheerio.
Bye.
Ta-ta.
Bye.